Daf Yomi Tractate Sanhedrin, page 55a, top of the page, with the words Haba al Habahema. Now, it actually started with the previous Daf, but I should mention that the subject matter might be, let's just say, offensive or off-putting to some. So if you're sensitive to this material that you will very soon encounter, please don't hesitate to tune out or turn it off. And it's not for children either. And again, I need to say another disclaimer that I always say, that the opinions of the Talmud do not necessarily reflect my own opinion, These are discussions that happened 1800 years ago, something like that. And it was a different time, a different space. People thought differently. And I want to make sure that people know that I'm not putting forth these ideas that are necessarily coming here. Okay, so with that said, I will start. Haba al behema, one who engages in intercourse with an animal. Bein kedarka, bein shelo kedarka, ve'isha mevia. And as we come into some of these concepts, I might give some of my own commentary, actually. Haba al behema, bein kedarka, bein shelo kedarka, ve'isha mevia al behema aleha, bein kedarka, bein shelo kedarka chayav. Or one who engages in intercourse with an animal, whether in a typical manner or an atypical manner, meaning from the front or the back. And similarly, a woman who engages in intercourse with an animal, whether in a typical manner or in an atypical manner, is liable. The Braita sets the minimum age for the passive male at 9 years and 1 day. Darash of Nachum Baruch Chizda Be'isha Shnei Mishkavos Behema Mishkav Echad. Nachum Baruch Chizda taught, with regard to a woman, there are two manners of lying. A woman who engages in intercourse with an animal, whether it is from the front or from the rear, is liable. But with regard to a man who engages in intercourse with an animal, there is only one manner of lying. It's from the front. A man who engages in intercourse with an animal that is a male animal, but if it's a female animal, I think they anyway, I'm not gonna get too involved in that. Maskiv lot of papa adraba isha deorchahi b'mishkav mechayev amda am acherin lo mechayev behem de lavorchahi dechayev ela al kol nekev v'nekev. Rav Papa objects to this opinion. On the contrary, a woman whose typical manner of intercourse is through the front is rendered liable for lying with an animal only in that manner. She is not rendered liable for something else, meaning for engaging in right from the rear with an animal. Animals, yeah. With regard to a man who engaged in intercourse with an animal, by contrast, since it is not typical to conduct a typical conduct to engage in intercourse with a man, he should be rendered liable for engaging in intercourse with it through each and every orifice. Tanya Zachar ben Tesha Shanim Yom Echad Bal Behema Ben Kedarka Ben Shelo Kedarka Ve'isha Mevia Es Behema Leha Ben Kedarka Ben Shelo Kedarka Chayav. It is taught in Braita in accordance with neither of these opinions. Their opinions. One who engages in homosexual intercourse with a male aged 9 and 1 day. Very unattractive stuff, I know. We're just going to have to plow through it. Okay. Or one who engages in intercourse with an animal, whether in a typical manner or in an atypical manner. Okay, it's from the rear. And similar, a woman who engages in intercourse with an animal, whether a typical manner or an atypical manner, is liable. Evidently, there's no difference between the nature of the transgression of a woman who engages in bestiality and a man who engages in bestiality in this regard. Ravina said to Rava, with regard to one who performs the initial stage of intercourse with another male, meaning the insertion of the member without completing the intercourse. What is the halachi? What's the halachi? Is he liable for engaging in homosexual intercourse? I would say yes. I think once you started, that's it. Okay, let's see what they say. The Gemara comments with regard to one who performs the initial stage of intercourse with a male. What is the question? The expression "as with a woman," Leviticus 18:22, is written with regard to him, which indicates that any act that is considered an act of intercourse with a woman is also considered an act of intercourse with a man. Rather, the question is as follows. With regard to one that performs the initial stage of intercourse with an animal, what is the halachi? Okay, Amar le, im eno inyan ha'ora, tiksiva gabi achoiso, viva achois imoy, doi tzricho, the ha'is takash ne'aro, denido, tenayu inyan ne'aro, de mehemo. Rava said to him in the verse, and you shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, nor of your father's sister, for he has made naked his relative. Leviticus 20:19. The word hera alludes to the initial stage of intercourse, ha'ara. If the word hera is not needed for the matter of the initial stage of intercourse, in the context where it is written, i.e. for the prohibition of intercourse, I mean, just as a word to maybe a comment on this, I think the reason why it's going so technical, all these things, is because the rabbis at Talmud, they really wanted to go to every detail. I mean, for the halacha, they wanted to know everything about everything. So you'll find the same process when it comes to in Pesach's Beitza with Shabbos Yom Tov, and they'll go to nitty gritty, really like about cooking or about setting a muktzah or setting aside something or erev or whatever it is they're talking about. They're going to really break it down. So in this topic, they're doing the same thing. I think that's what this is all about. It's the same idea, follows the same thing. For the prohibition of intercourse, one's father's sister and one's mother's sister, it is not necessary that in the context, since the halach of initial stage of intercourse with regard to all forbidden relations is compared by the Torah to the halach of the initial stage of intercourse mentioned with regard to a menstruating woman. Apply it instead to the matter of the initial stage of intercourse with an animal. The superfluous expression that appears in the verse concerning one's aunt teaches that the initial stage of intercourse is considered intercourse even with regard to an animal. Okay. Mechdi behema mechavim misois bezdini lami diksiv aradide gabe chayv krisois. Gedechetz ve legabe chayv misois bezdin v'digmo chayv misois bezdin mechayv misois bezdin. The Gemara asks, since one who engages in intercourse with an animal is among those who are liable to receive a court-imposed death penalty, why do I need the halacha of one who performs the initial stage of intercourse with an animal to be written in a verse concerning those who are liable to receive karet? Meaning, the case of one who engages in intercourse with his aunt. Let the Torah write the halacha with regard to those who are liable to receive a court-imposed death penalty, and one would then derive this halacha concerning those who are liable to receive a court-imposed death penalty from the halacha of those who are liable to receive a court-imposed death penalty, and not from the less relevant halacha of one who engages in intercourse with his aunt, who is punished with karet. The Gemara answers, since the entire verse about the punishment of one who engaged in intercourse with the sister of his father or mother is superfluous and comes for the sake of exposition, as this halach is already stated in other verses, see Leviticus 18:12-13. This matter, in other words, meaning the fact that the initial stage of intercourse is halachically defined as intercourse, is also written in this verse for the purpose of an exposition, meaning in order to indicate that this principle holds true with regard to bestiality as well. Good to know. But Pamine Rav Achadvoi Barami Mirashishis Amar Beaswim Mahu Amarlo Kabastan. Rav Hadvoi ben Ami asked Rav Sheshet with regard to one. Alright, this is really weird. Okay. Very strange. This rabbi is asking Rav Sheshet if one performs homosexual intercourse on himself, if he's able to do that somehow. Yeah. He's got to stretch it all the way around. I don't even know if that's possible. You got to do some serious stretching, or the dude's got a seriously long, Gehangazoitzer. But basically, this is a very, very off-the-wall question, but the Rosh Hashanah said to him, basically, he would respond to him very, you disgust me with your question. That's what he said. Such an act is not possible. Amar Ravashi, mighty boiloch, bakoshi, v'lo mishkachas lo, ki mishkachas lo b'mashmash meis. Oh no. Leman da b'mashmash meis, berayas potter, hacha potter, leman da mechayev, hacha mechayev v'tarte, mechayev v'ashoichev, mechayev v'nishkaf. Ravashi said, what is your dilemma? With regard to doing so with erect weenus, you can not find such a case. You can only find it when one performs the act of intercourse with a flaccid shloinus. And halacha is subject to a dispute according to the one who says that a man who engages in intercourse with a flaccid loinus with one of those with whom relations are forbidden is exempt. And how are they going to verify that? This is just totally... Okay, our relations are exempt, and that is not considered intercourse. Here too, when one does so to himself, he is exempt. And according to the one who says that he is liable, he is rendered liable here for transgressing two prohibitions according to Rabbi Yishmael. He is rendered liable for engaging in homosexual intercourse actively, and he is rendered liable for engaging in homosexual intercourse passively. One of those dafs. Boy b'nei Rav Sheshet is goy habal behema mahu. Keeps getting better. Tekala v'kaloin be'enon v'hacha tekala ika kaloin neka oidilma tekala afal pi she'ein kalon. The students have asked Rav Sheshet with regard to a Gentile who engages in intercourse with an animal, what is the halacha? Must the animal be killed? The Gemara elaborates, do we need two reasons to kill the animal, namely that it caused the calamity and that it caused shame, and therefore here the animal is not killed. How are we doing on time here? Okay. As while there's a calamity, as it caused the person to sin and be executed, there's no shame, as the Jewish court is not responsible for the shame of a Gentile. See what I mean? This is like totally, whatever. Or perhaps one reason is enough, and the animal is killed because of the calamity is caused, even though there is no shame. Amar Rav Sheshet to know ma'ilonos she'ein oichel ve'ein shoysin ve'ein marichin. Amar Torah hashches roif v'chalom hoyil basel alam dekala al yadon ha'mitzah lechaver midach chaim midach misa alachas kavakama. Rav Sheshet said, you learn the answer to this question in Braita, if with regard to trees, which neither eat or drink nor smell, and nevertheless, if they're used in idolatrous rites, the Torah says, destroy, burn, and demolish them. See Deuteronomy chapter 7:12. And the reason is, since a calamity is caused to people by them, then with regard to one who leads another astray from the ways of life to the ways of death, all the more so he is liable to be destroyed. It can be derived from here that any item used for a transgression that renders one liable to be executed should be destroyed. The Gemara challenges this ruling, if that is so. In the case of a Gentile who bows down to his animal, the animal should be forbidden, meaning it should be prohibited to derive benefit from it, and it should be killed. The Gemara answers, is there anything that is not forbidden to a Jew but is forbidden to a Gentile? Since a Jew who bows down to an animal does not render it forbidden, see Tumura 29b. A Gentile who does not render it forbidden either. Yisrael Guvida Leitzar Mida Dahavi Arbia Amar Abaya Zekilono Meruba Zekilono Muat. The Gemara challenges that assumption with regard to a Jew himself who bows down to his animal. Let the animal be forbidden, just as it is in a case of bestiality, when the animal is forbidden and is killed. Abayi says the cases are not the same. In this case, where one commits bestiality, his shame is great. But in that case, where one worships an animal, his shame is slight, and he will not be disgraced if the animal is left alive. The Gemara asks, but with regard to trees that are used in idolatrous rites, in which case the shame of the idol worshippers is not great, the Torah nevertheless says, destroy, burn, demolish them. The Gemara answers, we are speaking of living animals. The halacha is different there, as the merciful one has pity on them. Therefore, if the shame of the person is not great, the animal is not killed. Rava says that there is a different reason for the distinction between an animal that was worshipped and an animal with which one committed bestiality. The Torah states that because the animal enjoyed the transgression, it must be killed. This cannot be said about an animal that was worshipped. The Gemara asks, but with regard to trees that are used in idolatrous rites, which do not enjoy the transgression, nevertheless the Torah says destroy, burn, and demolish, the Gemara answers, we are speaking of living animals. The halacha is different there, as the merciful one has pity on them. Therefore, an animal is killed only if it enjoyed the transgression. And how do we know it enjoyed the transgression? Tashima davar acher shelo tehei behema overes bishuk v'yoimru zo hi sheniskal ploini al yada ma'ilav. The Gemara suggests, come and hear a resolution from the Mishnah to the dilemma concerning an animal with which a Gentile committed bestiality. Alternatively, it is so this animal will not pass through the marketplace, and so who see it will say, this is the animal because of which so and so was stoned, and existence would shame his memory.